Facebook. So day 4 of 30. I almost went like that then. I can't count. I have a lot on my heart to speak into today. So much so that I don't even know where to start. What I do know is that I want to speak into transparency, and I'm very mindful of time because I have a group call coming up soon, but I want to talk about transparency. And this has been a topic of deep consideration for me over the last few months, really. So a backstory, I have been reading Conversations with God, book 1 and book 2. I haven't read the third one yet, so I can't give any sort of, I guess, accurate input as to whether it's worth the read, but I wholeheartedly think book 1 and book 2 of Conversations with God is a book that everyone needs to read at some time in their life. And one of the things that's deeply discussed in book 2 is the nature of transparency. And I'm a big believer that, hey Byron, I'm a big believer that, and it's so cliche, but I believe there's so much truth in this, that we get to be the change that we want to see in the world. And that any change we want to experience externally it has to start from within. It has to start with me, it has to start with you. And if we are not being that which we want to see in the world, then there's something super out of alignment, and we get to take a serious look at that. And so this transparency piece, right? A lot of the work that I do with clients supports people through somatically shifting experiences like shame and guilt. Because what I think many don't understand is that when we have shame or guilt stored somatically in our cells, it's such a low vibrational emotional experience that it's like blocking the pipe. Nothing else can get through. And so any of the things that we do want in our world, we can't call in because we're walking around with this dense, icky vibe stored in our cells unknowingly. And the beautiful thing about transparency is that it's like taking a light and it's shining it into the dark corners of who we are, right? And when we shine a light, there's no space for shame and guilt. And I think the reason why shame and guilt is so prevalent in our society is because a lot of the things that we hold shame and guilt around are things that are never spoken into. They're things that, we think we're the only ones that have experienced or are experiencing. And it wasn't for me until I went deep, deep, deep down the rabbit hole of personal development and got myself in some rooms where some of the topics that we're talking about were some of our globally biggest issues, like our deepest, darkest issues. And I started hearing people speak up about their experiences and going, oh, fuck, I thought that was just me. I thought I was one in a million who'd experienced something deep and dark. And hearing people speak up was like the permission slip of like, oh, I'm actually not fucked up. I'm actually, sadly, one of many, right? My peers are all around me, the people who get this stuff, right? Hey, Sam, how are you, beautiful? And so what I believe is going to change the world is transparency, is speaking up about the things that we've been conditioned to believe we're to step over and ignore and not speak into. And so with that, I want to share some of the things for me that you may not know about me, and some of the things that I may not want to share. I'm not going to go into my deepest because I've done that in other spaces, and I welcome all of you. If you want to come join me in those spaces, you're more than welcome. But let's start talking about some of the stuff that isn't spoken about. So here's some things you may not know about me. And this is unscripted, so bear with me if I take pauses to think of the next one. So I've been running my business in full transparency, you're awesome. Thank you, Byron. I've been running my business for 8 years now. 7 of those years, it made next to no money. It's only been the last year that I've really figured out the money thing. I know so many people look at me and go, wow, Brie, you've been in the game for 8 years. You're a fucking boss. How did you do it? I struggled deeply. So my request is don't look at me and think I've got it all figured out, and that if you might be struggling in business, that you're doing something wrong, because it's really easy to make things look pretty from the outside. I have stretch marks on my boobs and on my inner thighs from years and years of yo-yoing in weight because of my fitness modeling background. So we have on seasons and off seasons, and with off seasons, it's not uncommon to put on large amounts of weight. Not large amounts, but to go from being ridiculously lean to a normal body weight. My deepest insecurity in terms of my features is my nose, only from the right-hand side. I'm fine with the left-hand side. My brother broke my nose when we were kids. We were play fighting, and I got dropped on my nose, and I have a little bump here, and I also can't breathe quite properly through the right-hand side of my nose. So I do snore sometimes, not all the time, but if this side of my face is up against the pillow, then I might snore. I eat more junk food than I would like to publicly admit. Chocolate is my biggest weakness. And I still have some bingey habits around chocolate. My skin is also something that I've struggled with throughout my life. I don't know whether you can see this little friend that's made a home on my face today. I used to have horrific acne. Horrific. And it wasn't until, and it was my deepest insecurity. I remember walking down the street one day through Adelaide City, and there was a group of tradesmen on a work site checking me out. And I remember thinking, don't make eye contact with them, because they'll see your body and think you're hot. They'll see your face and go, oh, and that was because of my acne. And it wasn't until I went away to Borneo and spent 2 weeks out in the jungles with third world tribes and not having a mirror, like no makeup, no mirrors, like I didn't see my reflection for the entire 2 weeks, that I actually forgot that I had acne. And, you know, the people over in Borneo, they don't see tourists very often, so they don't see white people. And so they were continuously telling me that they thought my skin was beautiful. And it wasn't until I got home to Australia and looked in a mirror and went, oh, that's right, I have acne. And then funnily enough, over the following month, it completely disappeared. What else do I feel called to share? I struggle with numbers. I'm slowly shifting this belief, but if there's a number equivalent to dyslexia, then I sometimes believe that I might have it. I really struggle to take a written number and translate it into the word. I have to spend a lot of time sitting going, what does that number say? I still struggle showing up on social media. I had someone message me last night, and acknowledge me for how I show up on social media fearlessly, and how I cop criticism and disagreements with my content effortlessly and with such ease. That's not true. I experience a lot of vulnerability hangovers constantly. Social media is a constant I can't speak, a constant stretch for me. But that's growth, right? The edge is the growth opportunity. So I keep going where I don't want to go. And this is part of that, because ideally I probably wouldn't be showing up here talking about a bunch of shit you guys probably don't know about me. What else? That's probably all I got for now. That feels kind of complete. So encouraging anyone who may be watching this, let's commit, if you feel called, to being a little bit more open and honest about who we are, warts and all, right? The good, the bad, the ugly, because it's we can't underestimate the permission slip that we become when we choose to own and express all of who we are. It's so easy to get caught up in someone else's highlight reel. It's so easy to get, hey, Uncle Les, I was just talking about Borneo. Actually, Les, I want to say thank you. I was just telling everyone about my struggles with my skin and how Borneo was such a big shift for me in how I saw myself. And part of that was you. You may not remember it, but you made a comment to me one day, one of the days we were at Borneo, in Borneo, and you made a comment to me about my skin. And I don't remember what you said. I remember the feeling. Yeah, and it shifted something for me around my skin and my relationship to my skin. But as I was saying, I think it's so easy for us to see other people showing up with their financed cars, and we make the assumption that they bought that outright, so they must be cashed up. We see people traveling the world and we assume that, they're doing it effortlessly. And what we don't know is that, they're living in their car, or they're figuring it out step by step and have, next to nothing in their account. We see people showing up looking flawless on social media, and we don't realize that they've spent thousands on getting work done and photoshopped the crap out of that photo so that it doesn't even look like what they look like in person. We don't realize that, maybe the fancy house that someone's living in, it doesn't actually belong to them, or that their situation might be something different from how we assume it to be. And so, A, don't make assumptions, and B, give yourself permission to be less than perfect, because like I said, it's transparency that's going to change the world. And when we allow ourselves to be transparent, there's no room for bullshit. There's no room for cover-ups. And it builds trust. It builds deep trust. And the depth of your connections with the people in your world will change radically, because you'll realize that the people who are in your world are in your world because they love you for you, not because they love you for who they think you are or who you pretend to be. Wait, you didn't own the expansion mansion? I mean, I didn't not own the expansion mansion. No, I definitely didn't own the expansion mansion. My heart feels a lot lighter. So with that, I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 5. I love you all. Goodbye.